war in Afghanistan may officially be over, but recent headlines suggest the impact of America's longest war will last for decades to come. Army veteran and author of the new book, Surviving Son, Scott DeLucio, lost a brother in that fight and is joining us to share his story and a message of hope. Welcome to Living Oklahoma, Scott, and thank you for your service.
Thanks for having me, Shelby.
Now, Scott, we're so grateful that you're willing to share such a personal story with us today. And with the tragedy of your brother's battlefield death, how did that impact you?
Yeah, so my brother and I were both raised in a very patriotic family. We both joined after 9/11, the military after 9/11, and we both were deployed to Afghanistan in 2010, part of the same deployment. And during that deployment, Stephen was tragically killed. But I used his death and my experiences over there as fuel to help me write this book, Surviving Son, and start my podcast, the Drive On podcast, to help out veterans and to give hope and strength to the military community and the veterans who might be struggling.
I know a lot of people are probably grateful for your words of hope. Tell us what's being done to further help U.S. troops that are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder after serving in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so I started the Drive On podcast because I personally knew several veterans who took their own lives due to PTSD and the stresses of combat that they had to deal with after coming back home. And the numbers of veterans who are struggling with mental health issues are absolutely staggering. And so on the podcast, I talked to many different service providers, nonprofits, and other organizations who are out there doing the work and really trying to help out veterans and come up with solutions for the issues that we're facing.
So you have your podcast and you also have your book, Surviving Son. We have a copy of it here. And, you know, it reveals some really real and raw emotions in this book. What message do you hope goes home to readers and that they really walk away with?
Yeah, so I hope that the veterans and the service members who read my book, Surviving Son, and I really do hope that they go out and get a copy of this book, but I hope that they learn from my mistakes and learn that there are healthy ways to deal with PTSD and the stresses from their deployments and the combat that they may have seen. And I talk about that in the book, Surviving Son. But I also hope that civilians learn about the sacrifices and that the military make and how it affects our families, especially a family like mine with a Gold Star family where we lost my brother in Afghanistan, and how it affects the families and communities that we live in.
And we got to get your input on this. What's really going through your mind right now when you see all that turmoil going on in Afghanistan?
Yeah, you know, I really do wish that the withdrawal from Afghanistan went a little bit better, but that's something that's in the past. And I like to focus on the positives, the good things that we did. And I don't feel like the lives that were lost over there, including my brother's, I don't feel like any of those were lost all for nothing. A lot of good was done by taking the fight over to the enemy and preventing another 9/11 style attack here in America. In doing so, we saved countless American lives here at home. But we also saved countless Afghan lives as well by making it so that they didn't have to live under that oppressive Taliban rule for the last 20 years. We also provided schools and infrastructure and things like that they never would have had otherwise had we not been there. So there's a lot of good, and I like to focus on those positives.
Well, Scott, thank you again so much for your service, so much for your time today, and for being open and sharing this story. I know this message of hope and your book and your podcast are really going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And you need to get your hands on this if any of this interview resonated with you. For more information, just visit survivingsonbook.com. And this morning, we are giving away Scott DeLucio's book to one lucky viewer. So keep watching Living Oklahoma and wait for that cue to call.